be, I know, I gotta ask, because I got another meeting, to come down earlier tomorrow evening? I don't know, because I got a meeting that I'm supposed to be somewhere else for 5 o'clock. And our meeting's not supposed to start. Well, actually, I'm supposed to be where I'm to at 4:30, because Isabel gets off at 4. And I'm just saying that because if not, I got to try to do it on Thursday. And the same thing Thursday, I got something on to go at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, no, and why I'm hesitating is I can take Thursday afternoon off, but I don't see tomorrow being a problem. I can be down there for even 1:30.
What time?
I'll make it work.
What time do you think you might get here then? Because there's probably be a couple of hours, might be.
Yeah, well, do you want to set it for 1:30?
Awesome.
All right.
But you understand that this is going to cost you.
I know, it always do cost me, but that'd be good because then I can have the one that I got planned for 4:30.
All right.
And I don't know if that'll work out with you, but we can talk after the meeting just to see what, yeah. Just
Alright.
come around,
Okay,
hang
I'll
around
make
for a
it
few
work.
minutes
And
after.
speak to my boss.
Okay,
Figure that out after.
Done.
yeah.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Sorry.
Let it roll. All right, welcome everybody to our regular public council meeting for Tuesday, September 5th, 2023 in the town of Torbay. First thing we need, a motion for Councillor Pollard to attend remotely. Councillor Tepper.
So, under our remote meeting policy, I'd like to move that we approve Councillor Pollard's remote meeting attendance. So moved.
Move. Seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Can I just ask a question of how many meetings that is for, with regards to the remote pertaining to our policy? Is it
4.
4 over,
No,
or just 4 in total? And
3.
it's 3, but this is the 4th one, is it? Oh, okay.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you. All right, new business. Councillor Tepper.
Nothing for me, pass.
Councillor Manning.
Congratulations.
Councillor Pollard. Councillor Epley.
Cross-border interviews, and thank you.
Councillor Goss.
Pass.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, and I got thanks. All righty. You want to get on the Q&A? No? Okay, all right. All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All righty. We got regular public council minutes for August the 14th, 2023. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any errors or omissions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, conflict of interest, your sheet is there in front of you. If there's any items on that, be sure to bring them up at the time when the issue comes forward. What is this letter?
Which one is it? The letter you asked me to
Yeah.
add to Council's desk for tonight? Right, that is for the 65 Marine Drive
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
proposal.
All right. Okay, so that'll have to get added to the package after? Or is it already in there?
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
thank-
it's not in the package right now.
all right, thank you. All righty, proclamations. We have a proclamation for FASD Atlantic. It's a proclamation for fetal alcohol spectrum disorder awareness month, September 2023. Deputy Mayor.
Proclamation, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Awareness Month, September 2023. Whereas fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, FASD, is a diagnostic term used to describe impacts on the brain and body of individuals prenatally exposed to alcohol. FASD is a lifelong disability. Individuals with FASD will experience some degree of challenges in their daily living and need support with motor skills, physical health, learning, memory, attention, communication, emotional regulation, and social skills to reach their full potential. Each individual with FASD is unique and has areas of both strengths and challenges. And whereas FASD NL is a pan-provincial organization that educates, provides supports and resources, and raises awareness about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, FASD, in Newfoundland and Labrador and Atlantic Canada, and whereas FASDL is leading a 3-year FASD prevention, awareness, training, and collaborative action project in the 4 Atlantic provinces, and whereas FASD Awareness Month is devoted to raising awareness of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, FASD, to improve prevention of FASD and diagnosis and support for individuals with FASD, and broad public awareness helps put FASD on the map.
Therefore, I, Mayor Craig Scott, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 to be FASD Awareness Month in the town of Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Carried. Thank you. Where am I? We have no presentations, no Q&A. Mayor's report. I don't really have much to report, to be honest. I will report that I did attend the Killicoast Games over the course of the week long that was taking place, and despite the weather, I think our staff and volunteers did a great job of getting that event in and completed, and I know that the kids who participated had a great time. The town of Torbay won the Jackburn Cup again for our 2nd year in a row, which for our only 2 times that we've ever won it. So it's a great accomplishment, but it doesn't, I guess, diminish the intent of those games is for the kids to get together and have a lot of fun and participate in sport and make friends. It's nice to win, and you know, we'll take that. And I think the town of I think Pooch Cove, Flat Rock, and Balleen won the Mayor's Cup. So congratulations to them. Hope I was right on that. Otherwise, my apologies to the team, but I'm pretty sure they did get it. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who participated and everybody who took part and helped and volunteered and helped keep those things going and got the games in successfully. Too bad the weather didn't cooperate like we wanted, but that's all we can do. Birthdays for the month of September: Dave Murren, Infrastructure and Public Works; Paul Roach, Recreation and Community Services; Danielle Brumfield, Recreation and Community Services; Norm Snellgrove, Corporate Services; Dylan Crichton, Recreation and Community Services; Danielle Short, Recreation and Community Services. Happy birthday, everybody. I hope you have a safe and happy birthday throughout the month. There's lots of birthdays there, and I know that council, along with me, wish you all a happy birthday. All right. Other than that, I don't really have that much to report. All right. Moving on. Put that in there. Business arising report. Anybody have anything on there that they want to bring up? Okay. All right. Correspondence. We have correspondence here from Department of Infrastructure. about the new sidewalks on Torbay Road and from Mans Road, I should say Mans Lane, to Juniper Ridge. And this has to do with the approval that we received from the department to avail of the initial funding that we were turned down on a couple of times before. And this has already been circulated to the Public Works Committee for consideration. So anyway, thank you to MHA Wall for helping me out with that. We have a correspondence here from Municipalities, Newfoundland, Labrador, advising of nominations for M&L Board of Directors. They are due. Nomination period for 2023 board nomination will close on September 26th. With that, I would like to thank Mayor Kuzney and Mayor Aker for signing my nomination papers for my position, which is up for election, which is the Urban Municipalities Director. They did that for me when we were in Bonavista. We have a sponsorship request here for an M&L to do with the M&L Conference and Trade Show. We will forward that on to Corporate Services to have a look at. And that's it for correspondence. Committees of Council. Committee of the Whole, we don't have any reports. Planning, Land Use Development, Councillor Tepper.
Okay, we will deal with the motions report. We met on August the 30th for a couple of hours, as usual, but we have a number of items to go through. Item number 1, the town of Torbay is in the receipt of Crown land referral pertaining to the proposed acquisition of a 8.09 hectares sized piece of Crown land located east of Edgewater Lane, south of Cedarwood Lane, and southwest of Tanglewood Lane, for purpose of developing a residential subdivision unserviced, Phase 7C Forest Landing. A similar Crown land referral was previously approved by Council at the April 18, 2022 Public Council meeting. However, the developer needed to change boundary lines and was required by Crown Lands Division to reapply. A detailed background report is attached for reference. So, our recommendation. The committee discussed the background report provided and concurs with the department's recommendation for approval of Crown land acquisition, subject to the Crown not transferring the very small portion of the property that is located within the NEF for the contour lines, as Transport Canada does not support residential development in that area. Therefore, the following motion is tabled. Motion to conditionally approve Crown land referral CL-2023-004 for the proposed acquisition of 8.09 hectares of Crown land in association with future Phase 7C Forest Landing Residential Subdivision, subject to the conditions outlined in attached departmental background report, and the Crown not transferring the very small portion of the parcel that is located in the 40 NEF contour line, as Transport Canada does not support residential development in that area. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So number 2, C 2023-077, 43 Lower Street. Fence installation, Codner House, which is a designated heritage site, Torbay Heritage Regulations, RMD Land Use Zone. The town of Torbay is in receipt of an application proposing the construction of a new wooden wire mesh fence around a rear yard of this historic property. The applicant is requesting to construct a 4-foot-high wooden fence, posts and top rail with wire mesh refill panel. The purpose of the new fence is for the safety of people and pets due to the drop-off where the property joins the neighboring property. as the property is a registered municipal heritage site and on the Canadian Registrar for Historic Places. The file was reviewed in accordance with the Torbay Heritage Regulations. A detailed background report with heritage assessment is attached for reference. So the recommendation. The committee concurs with the recommendation in support of the construction of the proposed fence. The committee notes that the fence is low, non-intrusive, and required due to the significant drop-off in the back, especially when a new home being constructed in the back. The committee has no objection to the proposed 4-foot fence and is therefore tabling the following motion. Motion to conditionally approve a 4-foot high wooden fence with wire mesh for the heritage property Codner House at 43 Lower Street, C 2023-077, in keeping with the Torbay Heritage Regulations and the RMD Land Use Zone Table. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Number 3, C 2023-056, 65 Marine Drive. 2 5-unit condominium development, 10 dwelling units for row housing apartment building. RMD, a conservation land use zone, discretionary use. The town of Torbay is in receipt of an application proposing a new residential development to be located at 65 Marine Drive. The development encompasses 2 row buildings containing 5 dwelling units each and is proposed to be in condominium ownership for the seniors market. Each unit will be approximately 2,418 square feet and 224 square meters in size. The development will be accessed from Marine Drive, situated at grade level with Hearn Place, with private well and septic. The developed dwellings are proposed to be 1 story in height towards Marine Drive and walkout basements towards the coast. The property itself is located in the residential and medium density and conservation land use zones of the Torbay Development Regulations 2015 to 2025. However, no development is proposed in the conservation zone. The proposed road dwelling and apartment building uses are listed as discretionary uses in the RMD land use zone table. Hence, the application was processed in accordance with Regulations 33 and 90, requiring public notification. The town received 2 letters in support, 11 letters in objection, and a petition in objection to the proposal. A detailed background report is attached. So the recommendation, the committee discussed the proposal at length and ultimately did not concur with the department's recommendation for approval. The committee acknowledges that seniors' housing is in high demand. However, the committee noted that the units proposed for this development are sizable, over 2,000 square feet. As well, the 2 structures and associated site grading would be in close proximity to the conservation zone and shoreline management area. The committee believes that overall development pressures on Torbay shoreline and the conservation zone boundary needs to be reduced. The proposal will change sight lines in the area and the overall view plane along the bight. The impact on sight lines for adjoining neighbours is of concern to the committee. The town has a municipal plan policy in place for the preservation of scenic views of the shoreline. While the policy does not go into detail, and it would be good exercise to possibly develop a more specific land use zone and more detailed view plane, size and height requirements for the shoreline as part of the municipal plan review, the committee does not support the proposal as tabled here and right now. In addition, the committee noted that council refused a similar 10-unit residential apartment development off Coppertop Place in September 2018. These 2 proposals are comparable, located in the same general neighborhood, and it would be inconsistent and precedent setting to refuse one and approve the other. For these reasons, the committee recommends tabling the following motion for refusal. Motion to refuse application C 2023-056 for a new residential development at 65 Marine Drive, proposing 2 5-unit row dwellings, seniors living in condo ownership, 10 dwelling units total, in accordance with regulations 22, 33, and 90 of the Torbay Development Regulations 2015-2025, in keeping with Council's discretionary authority for the following reasons. Scale, concern about large footprint of the development in comparison to surrounding single-family dwellings. 2, proximity to conservation area. Structures and associated site development and grading are proposed in close proximity to the conservation zone boundary and the shoreline management unit. Scenic view and sight lines in consideration of Municipal Plan Policy 2.1 regarding the preservation of the scenic views of the shoreline. There is a concern that the proposal will significantly alter the view and may potentially impact sight lines for existing property owners in the area. 4, consistency in applying development regulations. A similar type of 10-unit residential row housing development in the same area, Coppertop Place, was refused by Council in 2018. Large number of objections. Council reviewed 11 letters of objection and a petition in opposition to the proposal, raising concern for Council about the impact the development would have on the existing neighborhood. So moved.
Moved. And seconded. Comments?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there, Mr. Mayor. I had spoken at length with Damien Morrissey, who had brought this proposal forward, and I've had a relationship with Damien over the years in my past work. I've also, as you can see, have the letter of reference there from the town of Conception Bay South. It would have been, I think, of significant meaning if we could have had maybe Damien come in and actually do a presentation of what they propose for this. I know it doesn't exactly fit with what we're looking for in the area, but just knowing what they've done in the past and how they propose to fit things into that proposed area. Hopefully in the future we can do something that maybe they come in and present, and it's not a dead development. But again, I just know that with his past history and how they develop properties, I think they would do their best to make sure it fits within how it looks with the town of Torbay, and as we go with our theme in beautiful town of Torbay. So I would just like to, hopefully they don't give up on it, and maybe we can, because things are different now too with well and septic systems. They're not as big as once were. We don't need the ground that we once needed. They're much more modern, and I just think that there is potential there. There's something that we could help, again, increase our tax base and get something there that fits the region.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just want to comment as well. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
Go ahead, Tony.
We struggle with this on some of those very comments, and especially the fact that we know the need for seniors condos and things of that nature. One of the mitigating factors obviously is the fact that we did refuse a similar one, which was almost identical in terms of where the footprint encroaches on the conservation zone, the view sight lines for people existing in the Boyton Bay area. We even talked about what impact and what considerations really taking place if we go and develop the town centre policy as well, and its impact on the view line and things of that nature. And that's where we went, in terms of, there's no slight by us not inviting Damien Morrissey in for anything, and we don't extend that invitation. Anybody's welcome to come in, yes, but we don't automatically extend invitations for all the government to come in and present their particular proposals and along those lines. So, it was no malintent, and we did struggle with it because we know it's certainly a need. And we even talked about the fact that we need to incorporate some type of more stringent guidelines, or not necessarily stringent, but more explicit guidelines as to how we actually develop within the scenic area of Torbay overlooking the Bight.
Yep, thank you. And before we go back to you, I got just a couple of questions. So, the one, I read through the whole report, and I noticed that the developer did provide answers to all the questions that were raised in the objections, that were in the letters and that, and provided, I'm assuming, reasonable answers because the department was recommending approval. How many lots are there? How many RMD residential building lots are in that area? If it was split up, if it wasn't this proposal? This is kind of the question I want to ask. So, is it one lot? Is it potentially 2 or 3, or how many?
You're asking about that particular property?
Yeah.
Well, it's unique in that it's very narrow at the frontage at Marine Drive, and then it opens up, right? So it's a very large lot, and it certainly can accommodate more than one dwelling. The grading and the lot frontage and the shape, it has a funny jag-out shape. It's certainly a problematic lot to develop. So there's room for more than one dwelling on it because of its size. It's a very large lot.
I guess the only thing that I want to understand, if somebody came in with a proposal for a single house on that property, and they built, I don't know, a 3,000 square foot house, which is not unusual for the town of Torbay, 2-story, and it met all of our development regulations, we really wouldn't be able to say no. We couldn't use sightlines as a reason to not allow it. That's kind of what I'm wondering, because we got a comprehensive plan that we put together here for town center that Councilor Pollard mentioned. That includes 3-story buildings with business on the first floor and then 2 stories of residential. So if we went ahead with that plan, that's gonna change the view planes of the site. And I know, because this is something that we've kind of dealt with before and debated and talked about, that, you know, it's really difficult to protect sight lines for existing people that are already there, you know. But anyway, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you. Get back to you, sir.
Just want to mention too, the entrance is a big concern for me. This goes back years, because I dealt with a property owner when I was mayor, and even I think before that he was looking to build a single dwelling there. But the big issue at the time that he was concerned with was the grade for that particular entrance, because it's right on this side of the lookout, and then you got some homes beyond that. So you got to come up, because that's a bad turn there now anyway, right? But anyway, it obviously got the approval of Department of Highways to at least have an entrance there for multi-vehicles, you know. So to your point, that might come along pretty quick for a single, and it could be a huge house, who knows? But the view line might be impacted as well, right? But for this, you know, again, where the town turned down one, and again, I wasn't around for that, but at least a precedent was set, and to turn somebody else down, again, you know, I think is appropriate, and you know, it's I think it's in keeping with regulations.
Okay, all right, thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, number 4, C 2023-059, 35 Patrick's Pad, reduction in rear yard development standard, RMD Land Use Zone Regulation 16. The town of Torbay is in receipt of an application proposing to construct a single-family dwelling serviced at 35 Patrick's Pad. An approval in principle to create a new building lot and demolish the existing dwelling was already issued by staff. However, the applicant is requesting a reduction to the minimum required rear yard depth from 9.0 meters to 8.6 meters average to be able to accommodate the footprint of the home and the lot. The subject property is located within a residential medium-density land use zone. The proposed single-family dwelling is considered a permitted use. The proponent is requesting consideration of the reduced rear yard in accordance with Regulation 16 of the RMD Land Use Zone Table for approval of the plot plan. A detailed report is attached for reference. So the recommendation, the committee concurs with the department's recommendation for conditional approval in support of the reduced rear yard. 2 old structures in the front are being removed. The property is on existing water and Regulation 16 can be accommodated. As well, it would be within a 10% variance that council could consider in any case. Therefore, the following motion is tabled. Motion to conditionally approve a reduced rear yard depth of an average of 8.6 meters for the development of a single dwelling at 35 Patrick's Path, application C2023-059, in accordance with Regulation 16 of the RMD Land Use Zone, and the condition that no further variances on the property can be granted. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
Just one. The comment around water, Councillor Tepper, is this an additional unit of water that we're requesting, or is it already within
It's already
the
within-
allocations
yeah.
that we have?
It's already, already a serviced.
Okay, so it's already included in the numbers that we have for the allocations that are currently what council understands?
I would,
Yes.
The old house is hooked up to water?
And they've been paying taxes for a large number of years, since at least for more than 10 years.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that I understood that part of it in case we got asked. But thank you.
Yeah, they're basically on the list of the properties that have been paying their taxes for more than 10 years. Yeah.
Right, but so this
Yeah.
is not an additional unit
No.
that we're asking for?
No.
Oh, that's what I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask the question then. So that mean that everybody that's on that list that's been paying taxes since the water and sewer went through, because I know we have another individual that's asking that question, and Norm knows where I'm going with this. So that means everybody that's paying that taxes, that they're eligible to hook up for water?
Excuse me. When Julie and I looked at the list, there was 10 or 12 taxpayers who'd always been paying for water, and we gave them water allocations or gave them the option of keeping them. Isn't that correct, Julia? So
Okay.
if they've been paying, they all have the option of hooking up, and it was included in that number of 66 units that we had.
Okay, because I'm just thinking about the one in particular that the policy was, and I don't think we ever got back to her, so I'm just wondering, putting that out there. Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
okay, number 5, Portugal Coast St. Philip's referrals, amendments to regional plan. So there are 2. The town of Torbay is in receipt of 2 referrals from the town of Portugal Cove St. Philip's regarding 2 regional plan amendments, number 1 and number 2, 2023. A detailed background memo is attached for reference. The recommendation, the committee confers with the department's recommendation for the plan response and is forwarding this matter to council with recommendations to table the following motion. Motion to provide written commentary to the town of Portugal Cove St. Philip's in response to their referrals for the St. John's Urban Region Regional Plan Amendments, number 1 and number 2, 2023, as outlined in attached departmental background report. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Can I just ask one question? It's mentioned in here about the bordering to the watershed for Great Pond. Could I ask the director to reference what impact that would have for us at the town? I apologize, Julie, for not getting a chance to call you today. Work was really busy. But just when I read the package, I read that one of the pieces in here had to do with something that boundaries our watershed. And I just want to make sure I understand what the impact would be and what our response would be. Would you mind answering to that, if that's okay, Mayor?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks.
It's basically a small boundary overlap. So the, let's say, Great Pond watershed boundary extends a little bit over the northern boundary of of the area that they indicated to amend for development purposes. So basically what we're saying is that they need to keep that in mind and not go into that area, like not amend that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other changes that were in here that I read about, anything that impacts the town of Torbay's land, that our stormwater management stipulations will be required, so the people in Forest Landing do not have to worry about, you know, flooding, that kind of thing. Those would also be written in there. Is that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Number 6. Number 6, Jones Pond Trail, matter of appeal of order. This one goes back as well, a long ways. A number of years back, the town had issued an order to have obstructions removed off an existing walkway in the Jones Pond area between Marine Drive and Salznick Lane. At the time, the removal order had been appealed by the property owners blocking the trail, and the matter currently awaits final direction from the Supreme Court. This file has laid dormant for years now, but with no resolution. In addition, a neighboring property owner is requesting clarification on how to move forward with the regional walkway connection in the Jones Pond area. Next step in the process is a request for a case meeting with the applicants at court, and for the Supreme Court to set a date for the appeal hearing. Associated cost for the town to see this to conclusion is between $1,500 and $2,000. So the recommendation, the committee discussed this matter and concurred that a lot of time has passed without resolution. This is a historic pathway, and the town needs to get this moving. The committee supports the town's legal team now pursuing this matter and seeing it resolved at the Supreme Court level. Therefore, the following motion is tabled. Motion for planning staff to contact the town's lawyers to request a case meeting in the matter of the obstruction of the Jones Pond walkway and associated removal order and appeal, and to see this matter finally resolved at Supreme Court. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
Just a question around cost. You said $1,500, Councillor Tapper.
Between $1,500 and $2,000.
Yeah, so does that include the entirety of the process? How does that work? I'm just trying to understand. I'm not quite sure I understand that part.
I think it only, and Julie can verify this, this step, going before the provincial.
Is to speak to the lawyers, maybe? Is that the motion?
Well, this motion is really intended to get the process rolling. I am not 100% sure if it really includes the full, I don't know how long the Supreme Court the hearing would take, so right now this would be to get it to the, I actually don't know. I have to look up the email again. If you want to bear with me for just a second. So it would take the town to the point where an appeal brief would be filed. So basically, it would be the request for the case management meeting, setting deadlines for the appeal hearing to be heard, and then both parties filing a record, a transcript, and an appeal brief. So that's as far as it would take us.
The reason I'm asking the question, the associated cost for the town looks to be $1,500 to $2,000 to get to that point. But my understanding of the legal system, and I'm no lawyer by any stretch, but my understanding then would be we get the brief ready for the case management hearing. we'll have to pay the lawyers for prep for that, to attend that, participate. If there is no decision made at that point, at the case management hearing, then I would expect this would have to be sent over to Supreme Court for a judge to decide. So what we're doing here by approving this motion, if I understand it, is we're starting that process, but the costs associated with where this could go could end up, and would likely end up, being much higher than $2,000 to resolve this situation. Is that accurate?
I think that's possible, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any option?
There's no other option. We've been advised by legal, I'd say 15 years ago, before I ever was on council, that the only resolution to this is to bring it to the Supreme Court. That there was no, I mean, we're in a dispute with the landowners in that area who are encroaching, as the town's opinion, on a trail right away that the town has a right to put a trail there, and they're disputing it. So there's no other, we've been trying forever to get that resolved, and we were advised that this is the only route to finally get it done.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. That's what I was
It's not-
on.
It's not that, sorry, it's not that they're opposing it, there is actually obstructed at the present moment with fences there.
Right.
So the flip side is for us to remove the fence and have them take us to court or, you know, whatever, get injunctions and things of that nature, so we're gonna be down this path at anyway. So this is the smoothest, cleanest way to do it, so that the two sides actually sit down from a legal perspective and see each other's respective cases and decide how they move forward from there.
Right. Instead of having the heavy hand and going in and ripping everything out.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I think I was pretty accurate on that, yeah, all right. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So number 7, motion, so the permit listings were attached. Motion to accept permit listings for weeks ending August 30th, 2023, so moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
So to end the report, there's some updates and information there. If there's any questions now or later,
Okay.
we can entertain them.
Anybody have any questions on any items in the report? Very good, thank you, sir. Admin and HR is next on the list.
My turn.
Councillor Manning, are you gonna do that, or do you want Deputy Mayor?
No. No,
No,
I'm gonna save it.
you were thinking it.
But excuse me if I break off for a minute or two.
So just for your own benefit, you don't have to read the whole thing out, just highlight whatever you think.
Oh, okay, thank you. And sorry about the throat. Okay, so we had our meeting on August the 16th. Myself and Deputy Mayor Thorngoss and Director of Human Resources and Acting CAO Officer Mark Whalen. So the first one was the CAO Officer, Town of Torbay. We are currently working on the next steps in the process for the interviewing and applicant selection policy there for that position. Economic Development Tourism Officer, closed on Friday, September the 1st. The Accounts Receivable and Procurement Administrator and the Corporate Services Administrator, all closed on September the 4th, so those will be moving along now shortly. Community Outreach Assistant, where am I to? The successful incumbent is Derek Diamond, and Derek brings extensive experience in planning, management, and coordinating community heritage and cultural events. So in this role, Derek will report to the Manager of Heritage, Culture, and Information Services. I'll move on to the policies. We have a motion there.
Okay,
Councillor
That's
Weir,
right.
Mayor.
Before you
and I-
go forward there,
Sorry.
myself and Councillor Epley in conflict on that, so I'll pass the
Yeah.
chair over to
Okay,
Yep.
Deputy Mayor. I'm not gonna go
Okay.
anywhere.
carry on.
Okay. So the motion is resolved that the Town of Torbay support and approve the hiring of an external consultant from KBRS to assist with next steps in the selection and hiring process of a chief administrator officer for the town of Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And
Okay, any of the discussion?
I just wanted to,
So, a question on the, I know we spoke to KBRS and got all the costing worked out on that. We are going to be part of the committee as well, right? I.e., some council members or staff members or whatever that works. It's not only going to be KBRS, right?
yes, yes. Myself and Deputy Mayor and acting CAO, or, well, Mark Whalen as to HR will be involved also, not just the KBRS.
Is the plan to re-advertise or to take the existing applicants that are there and go through that screening process?
Existing applicants.
Since this, I'm not sure how much information that we can divulge at this
Well, true,
time
I
with all of that.
understand this, yeah.
And,
Thank you.
yeah. So,
Okay, so let me rephrase it. So I guess as long as everything takes into consideration that we already advertise, which would usually be covered off in the fee structure from KBRS or some other external consultant as well, as long as they acknowledge the amount of work that we have done up front prior to bringing them on stream. Because I realize that if you go to existing applicants and whatever, they may have to advertise again, and that'll be on their dime.
Now,
That's-
I'm not sure if acting CAO would like, or Marcus to HR would like to just, if we're allowed to talk on that, and, because that was put into.
Yeah,
I'll let you
yeah,
go.
so the plan is that, the first step that KBRS would become involved in is the pre-screening of the applications that have been received, and then the process will move forward from that step onward.
Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
any more discussion?
I just, for the record, if we could note it that, I know that Councillor Appleby and the mayor declare conflict in this because I believe this firm is somehow associated with either FCM or M&L.
M&L.
M&L. So, that speaks for itself, but it did put, this is a very, very important situation for our town to fill this position. It's the top position in the town. And whoever gets it is going to be close to, especially the mayor and everybody in this chamber. But I think my thing is, if this firm brings through a recommendation, will both Councillor Appleby and Mayor be in on the discussion going forward to confirm a new CAO?
That's a good question.
I don't think that they
I
can
could
talk to
probably
that
answer-
right now,
I
can
could
you?
probably answer that after, but not
Can't talk to that right now.
Okay.
But again, like I said, there's a lot of pressure on the rest of us who are going to be voting on this, whether it's this vote or going forward. And I think it should be clarified for at least council's consideration, whether this is the right time for me to bring it up or not. I thought I'd at least put it on record.
Got anything?
No, I'm just thinking actually what Councilor Tarper said. I mean, I guess if you look at that situation right from when we take them on as helping us find our next and future CAO, I guess a representation or whatever they perceive as the best candidate, I guess coming right through from the first of the process to the end is still all part and parcel. So to me, it would still be in conflict.
That'll be a different conversation.
Yeah,
that we'll end up
and I
having to
think,
have.
yes, it will come down to the five of us to make a proper decision if that's the case, and kind of so be it. I think, I think we're capable of doing that. Yes, I'd rather have full of council, but we know where it is right now, and if there's something that does change that they can have a say in that, well, by all means, but I guess that right now, if they're involved and they give a representation of who the best candidate is, it's probably you know, a conflict in my eyes.
Okay, you
Absolutely.
finished?
I don't see.
Okay, all right, sorry, but you've already spoke to that, so I'll call the question if you have nothing else to
No,
say.
It wasn't at that point though.
Anyway, you've already spoken once to the motion.
To the motion, but not to that last comment.
Yeah, but we don't go around the table, so again, so I'm just going to call the question.
Okay, I just want to support this going to an outside consultant simply because this is the head position of the town, very important. And even though we have our skills at it, to have someone that does this on a daily basis and to ensure we're going in the right direction and looking at the right everything. Other than that, that's just where I stand.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Back to you, Mr. Mayo.
Okay, all right, thank you. We can talk about that conflict piece later on.
Absolutely.
Can I speak to that as the VP of M&L?
I'm of the mind that there is no conflict after a decision to hire them has already been made, but
If I could provide clarification on that, I am Vice President of Municipalities in Newfoundland, Labrador, and the way that works is that if the town were to hire this consultant, Mayor and I would be in a conflict on the vote to hire the consultant because there's a kickback to M&L financially. However, if there's a recommendation that's made through a process where the town is involved, the committee is set up, and the recommendation comes back to hire someone, at that point, that has nothing to do with the financial kickback to M&L. It just has to do with the decision of the candidate that's being provided. So the legislation is that under the Incorporations Act, if there is a financial transaction, we are hiring one of the businesses, the same thing with canoe procurement, that's why we can't vote on those, is because if there's money and the town is going to pay money in this instance to this consultant, then Mayor and I are in a conflict where M&L will get the kickback from it. But if, we've had this with loaders, I believe, in the past, where we wouldn't vote on the loader, but if there was something different that had nothing to do with the canoe piece of it to do with that loader, it's a different discussion. So just to clarify the aspects around that, and it's a fair question that Councillor Tapper raised, so I just felt it was important to provide some clarification on the understanding that we've been provided on how that works. Thanks.
okay.
Right.
All right, carry on.
Shall I continue? Now, underneath, we have this, it's all there, all the different policies are there, which we're going through the process of reviewing, and we'll send out to council for comments and any questions and such as we continue on with it. Other items. Municipal enforcement FRP follow-up. The RFP is closed and the tender has been awarded accordingly. Update will be provided at regular public council meeting scheduled for Tuesday, September the 5th. So I'm not sure.
So who's got the update
Update,
and when
yeah.
did they start and all that kind of
Yeah.
good stuff?
Because that's not something we were privy to.
The, the award went to Garda, and the contract's been signed, I think it was last Friday they started, Brian? So they're at the Common, and they're on their patrol schedule.
Okay.
So are they looking at resolving the issues not at the Common, like what was on the go? Because I assume now that the security they had at the Common is now gone, that
The,
they're hired?
excuse me, Garda was actually the security who was there before in the evenings.
Yeah,
So they're still there in the evenings till, I think, 10:30, and then the nighttime patrols, I think, continue till 2, Brian, 2 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
so what's the hours of the new, of Garda?
8 to 2, isn't it? That's what, or is it, what is it?
Is it 8 to 2 or 6 to 2?
No, it's 6 to 2 for
6 to
the,
2.
for the town patrol, and it's, I can't remember what one is for the common now.
4:30 to 10:30.
I think it means 10:30 or 11 o'clock. I think
So
it'll
what
be
time of the day do they start? I'm assuming they're going to be up at the school and that tomorrow, like they normally are with the schools opening? Like who are they reporting to you, or did we ever decide on who they're actually reporting to?
Sorry. Yeah, so the town patrols reports back to Public Works, and the common patrol, or common security guard, I guess you call it, reports to Community Services.
I understood though, when we hired Gerda, that the security at the common, that one off, that was only there until we hired that company. They hired, my understanding as being on the committee is that the security was hired for the issues at the common because we didn't have somebody going around into town. So when we hired Gerda, then that's particular security, because they would be the ones that would be going around and dealing with the same thing. Like it wasn't an intent to have two different security groups.
I'll have to go back and look at the motion from that, when it was worded. I think it was worded that way, to be two separate things.
To have a security in the building.
Security guard would be on site over there from 4 till 10:30, whatever it was.
Anyway, that wasn't mine, because even where the money was coming from was a whole other issue we talked about, so we need to get that clarified as soon as possible.
All right, I
There's
got
enough in the budget to cover both?
I have a question.
Yeah,
think
but
that
we
was-
got other issues that were coming out of that budget as well
That
for
was part of the
the,
conversation
Okay.
last time.
All right.
just let me finish my thing on the security. I just wanted to make sure with regards to the security, because we had talked about the money for the camera for the common and for the history house and anything else that was coming out with regards to security, but we never had no motion or no discussion about from from Recreation Community Services about that being extended. That was the intent.
Okay. All right, I got a question. And around this whole thing, originally when we talked about going out for this service, it was for municipal enforcement. How do we go from getting a municipal enforcement officer and potentially with a dog catcher to only security? That's.
Oh, I don't know
I
how.
don't know how that went from there.
It
to
was
there.
from the dog, yeah, you're right with that, yeah.
Right, because that was our intent, right? At budget time.
We didn't, HR didn't look after that. It went, I guess it went over to Norm because we had asked for it to come back. And between Don at the time and Norm and Brian, we asked several times and it,
Okay, all right.
am I right in saying that, Mark? Like, we weren't involved in it at the end at all? Because I
Right.
asked that question, how come HR were not involved? And it was because it was an RFP and
Okay, that's fine. I
it
just-
was, you're right in saying that, absolutely. Yeah, that was,
My
yeah.
issue is we still don't have anybody to enforce our municipal bylaws, our parking tickets and dog catcher and all that stuff that we originally.
that was supposed to be part of
So,
that.
so are you saying that we're going back to animal control? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that we talked about hiring
Yeah.
a municipal enforcement officer, potentially could do animal control and.
So you're saying animal control is involved in that?
I think we've gone sideways here, folks.
Yeah, that's just a question I had.
No. Yeah, no, and I think if everyone remembers, the issue was the fact that we didn't have security at all, any kind. We're running some issues around town, be it the center and the fact that there was vandalism around and car racing and things of that nature. And we went decided, if my memory serves right, to get security right away. And I think we need progress on during the important discussions to be exactly what the next phase looks like. Because at one time we did talk about getting how we do animal control and whether or not we do enforcement with multiple towns and things of that nature. And whether it was enforcement or security.
Okay,
At the end of the day, we all agreed to security.
all right, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. I was just curious, that's all.
No, but you're right in saying that that was the intent of it when it went out, Mr. Mayor, that that's the way it was going to be. And the reason, and I just brought it back to the issues at the Common, was what was happening there in the nighttime, and the security, when they came on, were going to be able to go over and check on that behind the Common. It wasn't the intent of, if the money was in the budget, because there was other security issues that need to be dealt with the money that was in the budget.
All right, that's fair. I guess that's a question maybe I should have answered before. Or asked before, but anyway, that's what it is now. Thank you. Where are we?
And
here?
so ends my report.
Right.
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm a little confused about the conversation that we just had. Is it possible to maybe have it brought back to Infrastructure and Public Works Committee for discussion around, just to pull together the history of what has happened with the security file? And I think to the second point about the animal control piece, there's been a conversation here about intent around animal control. I kind of think we're leaving the conversation with some questions. I've got some questions about a couple of different security contracts, who's reporting to who, and if there is a conversation around animal control to be even entertained when the next budget discussion comes up, and what does that look like? We've just had the union negotiation. So I think there's some layers of conversations, and maybe some of this to come back to the HR and admin committee as well. I'm not sure if it's the Public Works Committee or the HR and admin, but maybe if we could just ask that the review is provided for whomever the right committee is, mayor, and that there's some clear documentation and intent for planning for the budget process, because that's coming upon us soon. And I think it would be good information for council to have as we begin those deliberations about what services, if that's something that does come up in the public engagement piece, it would be nice for us to have that information as we deliberate.
Yeah, that's fair. We can
Thank
do
you.
that. Thank you.
So I'm just not sure which committee to refer to. I'll leave it to your discretion, however you feel that's appropriate. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm sure we'll have the discussion around budget time anyway, about what it is that what direction we want to go in. And at that time, I guess we can figure out who's going to look at it or what it is that council wants to do. Okay. All right, number 2. Corporate services.
Me again?
Councillor Tapper.
So we did meet on September the 5th, and we have a report. Regular payroll for 62 employees for the 2-week period ended August 16th, 2023, totaled $127,741.80. Accounts payable for the 3-week period ended August 25th, 2023, invoices in the amount of $780,060.64. So we have some invoices, 6 operating invoices for approval. They total $103,461.68. So, invoice number 6196, Cal Legros Insurance, $9,603. Invoice 203918, CFL Environmental, $45,567.96. Invoice 414, H&M Paving Limited, $12,305. Invoice July the 14th, 2023, NL Power, $11,829.97. Invoice 332, Damascus Men, $6,900. Invoice 640, Tough Coat Sealer, $17,255.75. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Just one. The waste tipping fee is $45,567.96, and that's a significant amount of money, understanding that is what we have to pay. However, I'm curious, and just to ask to bring it maybe back to planning committee, my understanding is that the weight of the garbage is relational to the waste tipping. I'm wondering if there's a conversation to have or something we can do around informing residents about how they're packaging their garbage, you know, when it comes to composting or other recycling alternatives. I don't know what we have on our town website. I don't know if we have events that are planned for people to come in and talk about that, or if we could work with MMSB, looking at other resources available whereby we could work with them to get discounts for, you know, some of these containers for people. There's, you know, conversations that you hear at 100,000 feet of, oh, I don't want to compost because that'll bring rodents into my yard. However, there are people successfully composting that aren't experiencing those things. So I think some education and awareness, and I know our planning department is already taxed and very heavily worked, so I apologize. But I think the conversation, maybe it's with communications, I don't know who, but it would be nice maybe for us to revisit, you know, the education piece, the recycling piece, and just see if there's any way to try to get some of that heavy, wet content that's in our garbage maybe taken out, repurposed somehow, and see if we can knock that number down. It's quite substantial.
Sure.
So I don't know what we can do or capacity, I just want to put it out there as an option.
You guys
to
can take
consider.
that back to your infrastructure and public works committee, because that's who.
Would that be us?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
okay,
thought the numbers on that probably 2 months ago, I'd say,
okay,
or maybe longer than that, probably the spring,
yeah,
of where the numbers were all to.
okay.
But it's, yeah, it's definitely some more education to be, sorry. Definitely can be some more education put forward on it, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, recycling in particular, because I think solid waste costs us, what, $72 or $78 a ton, something like that, and recycling is in the $20 to $30 a ton. So the more recycling you do, obviously.
Yeah,
They say-
that just went up not long ago too, right?
Yeah, right.
yeah, that'd be
That's a good
great if we
point.
could. I think Julie has her hand up there.
Julia?
Just one quick point, because the Plan and Development Ambassador updated the greenhouse gas emission inventory this year, and the waste is a huge contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. To actually reduce and take the wet content out and compost, and that we can certainly also look at some green funding to see how we can facilitate the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions too.
Thank you.
I can tell you up in Conception Harbour and their two neighbouring communities there, they're doing some really good stuff around community composting. They've saved a ton of money on their tipping fees and their waste, and they're actually so they're doing a lot of stuff around glass, and it'd be interesting to just give them a call and have a conversation with them and see what they're doing. I know they've presented at MLL a few times about what exactly they're doing, but they're saving a lot of money and working together and in the region.
Which community was that again? sorry?
Conception Harbour.
Conception Harbour.
Yeah, and I'm,
Oh, I've seen it in the news.
it escapes me the name of the other two towns that they're working with, but they're doing some really good stuff up there.
Can I just ask a question there with regards to Calagro recreation accident policy? Like, it seems a bit of a coincidence that that's in there based on what we just happened.
No, that's an annual policy we pay every year for events up at the Common.
Okay, and that just happened,
Yes.
coincidences. Okay, thank you.
All right, okay, call the question, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
So we have three capital invoices totaling $795,271.46. Invoice number CP2-ROH, Evans Landscaping, $5,510.11. Invoice 231-01, Harvey and Company, $260,767.10. Invoice 235-01, Harvey and Company Limited, $528,994.25. So moved.
Seconded.
Moving seconder, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So we do have a couple of motions. Actually, two of them, we have to rescind initial motions, going back, just with a bit of background. Financing for the Recreation Open Spaces project and the Torbay Roads project were awarded to TD Bank at the regular public council meeting of April the 17th, 2023. By the time the provincial government issued approval for the town's request to borrow, the rate offerings by TD Bank expired. These two motions require rescinding. Proposed motions to rescind are listed below. So the only difference in the the rescinded motion and the new motion are the bank rates. So I'll just go right to the for the recreation open spaces, the initial bank rate was a 3-year term at 5.06%. So I'm putting forward a motion to rescind that. Resolved the Town of Torbay rescind motion RES-140-2023, April 17th. Was at the 2023 regular council meeting. So I'll move that motion to rescind.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now I'll read the,
Opposed?
oh, sorry.
Carried.
Now on the Torbay roads, I will, let me see. The new motion, the 2023 Torbay Roads project is a $1,412,521 project that is cost shared with the province 50/50. The town's share to be financed is $706,260. Rate quotes were received from TD Bank, RBC, and the NLCU. The lowest rate quote was received from TD Bank. It's TD Bank's 3-year term at 5.743%. The committee recommends awarding financing in the amount of $706,260 for the 2023 Torbay Roads project to TD Bank for a 3-year term at a 15-year amortization at a rate of 5.743% with a monthly payment of $5,821.58. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
I
I
don't
have
know.
a comment. Has anybody contacted, this is not my first experience with the time it takes to return from our loan approvals. We almost lost 3/4 of a percentage point on interest, which cost the town because we couldn't get an approval from municipal affairs to say go ahead. So the town has to keep that, and that I find there's something wrong with that turnaround time, and that needs to be addressed. I mean, how often is that interest rate? Once a month? So if you're talking 3/4 of a month, that's almost, that's 3 months worth of wait time. I don't know where you were slow putting in the request, or I know historically the government's been slow in responding to saying yes, go ahead. But in these times, there should be someone with a higher concentration to make sure we grab the best rates we can for, not only us, everybody to deal with on a regular basis.
For those two projects, we submitted them. Matthew Byrne reviewed them, submitted them to Municipal Finance. Municipal Finance rejected them the first time because both loans were packaged. We had to bring them back to council and do another motion with two separate loans. I sent them back to Matthew. Matthew again approved them as our analyst, sent them off to Municipal Finance. And it was only when I started chasing Matthew and said, where are these? And he said, I've approved them. They're gone to Municipal Finance. And then he went looking for them for me, and we came back and finally got them back. And then when I sent them off to TD, it expired. And they came back with new rates. And so then committee decided to go out. With the loader and the backhoe that we've got there now, these almost expired as well. We sent them in. I called Fallon, who's our new analyst, and she'd had them for almost 5 weeks and never looked at them. And so then she finally referred them on to Municipal Finance, and we got those back. And when we signed the documents last week, the Kent Farrell from NLCU said they had almost expired as well. We were down to days. So what I need to do now is once I submit them, I got to start following up with them weekly to try to get responses back because interest rates are changing.
All right,
Can I
thank
ask
you.
a question, because I'm really confused? So we've just rescinded the motion with a 5.06, and what you're telling me is that because someone didn't do something within a time frame within the provincial government, that we now have to increase the rate to 5.743?
That is correct.
Wow. Wow. Is there any recourse for us to take this up with the MHA or anyone else? I mean, that's a significant amount of money for the taxpayers of Torbay.
I talked to
we?
Chris Stamp on it at PMA, and they're going to bring in a new approval scheme where larger municipalities don't have to get requests to borrow approved, but he said it's only gonna be if your borrowing ratio is below 10%. Ours is around 15 or 16%, which is still well below the 30, but we're still gonna have to get approval, which doesn't make sense.
Wow. Norm, do you have an idea of what the dollar value is that we're going to have our taxpayers incur?
I can calculate it for you.
I think it would be important for the taxpayers of the town to understand the difference of this. And I think if we haven't, I think it would be a good conversation to have with our MHA as well, to bring up in his world.
Yeah, I'll do that.
That's really unacceptable that we would have to experience this and our taxpayers would have to take on those extra costs. So I thank you for clarifying that for me. But I'm really shocked to see that we've got to incur those costs. Sounds not cool.
And to that point, we're not alone in that. This was a topic of discussion when we were in Bonavista last week for UMC meeting, and they were also discussing when the new act comes in, potentially for the larger municipalities, of having a bit more flexibility in terms of making decisions and having to always run back to municipal affairs to get permission to do stuff that we can do, you know, so.
If I can
I'll
add
talk to
just-
Jody about that.
If I can add one more thing, just to, the only silver lining in this is that we are doing this over a 3-year term, and it's, we're not, the amortization, we will do another 3-year term, another term after that 3 years is up. So yes, there is no doubt a cost increase, and that's not acceptable. But we had looked at 3, 4, and 5-year terms, and we decided on a 3-year term because we just wanted to see what's coming down the pipe within the next couple of years, where rates should be retracting, hopefully in the next year or two. So just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, just, it goes to highlight, I guess, and underscore how much more expensive it is getting to do business. you know?
Absolutely.
Those additional costs on us now simply because of borrowing rates. All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay, there's another one here on the recreation open spaces. We have to rescind the original motion. So I make a motion to rescind project financing recreation open spaces. Resolved that the town of Torbay rescind motion RES-1392023, April 17, 2023, from our regular public council meeting. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So the new motion on project financing recreation open spaces. The recreation open spaces project is $177,176 project that is cost shared with the province 60/40. The town's share to be financed is $70,870. Rate quotes were received from TD Bank, RBC, and the NLCU. The lowest rate quote was received from TD Bank. So the TD Bank 3-year term was 5.7, or is 5.743%. The committee recommends awarding finance in the amount of $70,870 for the recreation open spaces project to TD Bank for a 3-year and 15-year amortization at the rate of 5.743%, with a monthly payment of $584.17. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I hope I got all that right. But that's the report. There's a lot of background information and reports there as well, if there's any questions or comments.
See none? Thank you, sir.
That's it. Here.
Moving on, economic development and tourism. Councillor Appleby.
Mayor, we did not meet, and I don't know what our plan is to meet. I would like to chat maybe with the CAO after our meeting this evening and have a discussion about how do we move forward until we get the position filled for the economic development officer. So I don't know, Councillor Manning, if you have a minute, maybe we can chat with the CAO and come up with a plan for bridging that gap until we we get a person hired in the position. But right now, there isn't a report that we have to bring forward. And I know in the last report that we did bring forward, that our understanding when we met with Deanne for the last time was that her files had been handed to planning and some of the other committees until such time that we were able to take further action and resume that. So I think it might be useful if we could just chat quickly after the meeting. That might be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to ask, I had a question, a phone call on it today with regards to the farmer's market, so I guess that fits into what you're saying. There's be no discussion or no planning around the farmer market for the fall?
The work was being undertaken before she left.
Yeah.
And the only thing is that we just haven't met since the last council meeting. The work that was being undertaken and moving forward, I would expect would continue in that space. The thing is, just because we didn't have a person in the position, we didn't have that meeting between last meeting and this one.
Okay.
But I think it would be good if we could get a meeting in between this meeting and the next one to look at the files and get a catch up. So that's where I was hoping to have the conversation with Councillor Manning and CAO to come up with a plan, because right now on a regular schedule, we would meet on Thursday evening. And I got a call asking if I could do another meeting, and I went, I can't tell you until I know if we're having that meeting. So I think we could just resolve that after, but if there's a question about something proceeding that economic development would do, Deputy Mayor, I would think that, as we have done in the past, that the CAO would advise what would be happening in that, or who's responsible for taking care of those duties.
Because that's been
until-
an expectation that's really been good over the years, that we had that taking place.
Yeah. So could we chat about that, Mark, after maybe? Thank you. Okay,
All right.
thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Alrighty. History, Heritage, Culture, and Arts, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, we had our meeting on August 28th. Without getting into it, is all straightforward here. The manager is providing an overview of the operations. The report is there. He's preparing the fall program, which is basically there in the fall guide. Staff are working on the fall curriculum. Collections management has been transferred over to Donna, and there's lifelong learning programs for the adults and seniors. And financial report, Creative Minds and the Museum Annex project letters will be sent to businesses asking for support for donations. Museum services and operations extension services, a master curriculum document is in preparation to cover programs and educational services at History House. Staff have received the K-6 provincial curriculum and are developing lesson plans for class visits scheduled to begin the end of September. Lifelong learning is there. Creative Minds, I think the Creative Minds sold out very quickly. The sessions there for that. History House and Preservation, a dedication ceremony will be held for Picos Ridge on June 2024 to commemorate the disaster and honor the memory of the victims. And Amherst Landing, there's going to be a short ceremony with light refreshments planned for the afternoon of September 13th, which is next week. The update there for the grants and that, and this is something that when I went through this the weekend, I think all directors' departments were asked to put that in at the end of the minute so that we know what programs, what grants and that have been applied for follow-up. And this is the only one that's been in there. So if anybody got any, there's another part to this. With regards to the mold and contamination and remediation. So on Monday afternoon, August 28th, the curator found mold growing on particle board shelving in the basement. And they've been in consultation, Public Works with Pinchin. limited to develop a remediation plan to contain and remove the mold contamination. Staff are unable to take further action until we receive their assessment and recommendations. Is there anything new on that other than what's in here? Or is this like outdated as I'm talking?
No, we
Okay, we're good?
we actually received a report late this afternoon. It was like just
Yeah.
after 5 o'clock before I came over and noticed I got it. So I'm gonna pass it on to the manager and CEO, and we'll set up a meeting to go from there. So
Okay.
it's mold, so any mold is bad, I guess. So just the Cole's notes on it, we can still use the 2 upper floors, right? As we've been doing since we had them there on site on Thursday or Friday of last week, we had them on site, right? So.
Yeah, so that's really good in the fact that they're still able to work from there. Disposal and replacement of all particle board shelving with metal wire shelving, so it is basically limited to the shelving that's in the basement. And path forward, relative pinch-in will measure relative humidity in the basement at 80%. The ideal RH for collection storage is 45. So obviously, there's other things that have to take place there. The basement is the only available storage in the building for equipment and supplies. Therefore, measures must be implemented to control the moisture. Artifacts should not be returned to the basement, and a temporary solution must be found until new permanent storage can be installed in the museum annex. So,
Can I ask a question? The mold piece, I'm curious, that building, we did the refurb on that and cut the ribbon on it last year. We had a project manager in place who oversaw the work that was being done for that building. And I'm reading here that the basement has no circulation. Is there any part of the work that was done, is there any insurance, is there anywhere to go back and ask the question of what happened with this when we were doing the project? I'm just curious, and Brian, if you
Yeah,
can speak to
I
that,
can speak
that's
to
the
it.
first question.
So when Public Works took over the project, the plan for the building was already done. That was done through economic development, actually, at the time, prior to the Istriag's manager being hired. So that's where we took the project from there. As soon as we got into it, we had said that there needs to be some mechanical ventilation put in this place. But the agreement, I guess, at the time was that this is the money we've got to do this work, that's what was approved, and that's where we're going. So as we got further into it, that then we would go back and look at putting a proper ventilation system in. And that's what I know the Istriag's managers looked into it. I've looked into it, one of our supervisors looked into it. I believe we may have put it forward to council last year for budget, and that never passed the first pass, as they say. So at the end of the day, I mean, the house is 100+ years old. It's a basement. It's going to be damp. But that being said, you can still put mechanical things in there to do it. So that's one thing we are researching now as well.
So if I understand it correctly, and I've been in that basement, we'd need a HRV system in there to,
Yeah, so another thing that Pension has said is that in the interim, what we could do is put some more heavier dehumidifiers down there. There was one down there. We did put a second one in there on Thursday, I think it was, whatever day we met with Pension there on site. And we're in process now getting another one, and we're looking at getting a larger, more, I'll call it a more commercial one to go down there, which can take care of the full area, until we get to a point where we can actually determine what funds we need to put a proper, what I'll call a proper system, as the manager is saying there.
okay.
Yeah.
And the second question I have is around climate storage. I thought that we had climate-controlled storage lockers or space that the town had. I'm going way back to even before I was on council, and we were doing the Festival of Trees and looking for spaces to save and store the Festival of Tree materials that we had at the time. My understanding for the storage of the Mummers exhibit and a number of different things, we had a contract for climate-controlled storage. Has that been let go? Is that not available? What's happening in that space?
Yeah, so I'd speak to that as well. We do have storage, and I guess is what you'd call, when you determine to be climate controlled, it is heated, in a heated space, right? There is no humidistats or anything like that in that particular storage unit that we've got, or 2 storage units actually. And that's, again, that's what the history house manager is referring to, is that if we're going to put it in storage, we should put it in proper storage where we have proper climate control the, not only temperature, but humidity as well. So that's something, he's been looking into that, and he's got some pricing that he's gonna come back around on that as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
and I think in the interim, we spoke about possibly using the old RBC building for, just as a temporary fix.
All right, okay.
Thank you, Brian.
I think I'm not sure if.
Yeah, that's correct,
Yeah,
yeah. We'll be working with committee members of the History House once the Director Winter, myself, and the manager of the History House get together to review and discuss this report, because we need to look at, I guess the most important next step is to remove those artifacts and put them in storage somewhere safely, and that has the proper, relative humidity, et cetera, et cetera. So there's more to come on that as well from the true committee.
Yeah, I have one more thing to add, actually. One good thing with, and it's not good as mold, but one good thing with it, it's only, it was confined to the very bottom shelf of the shelving units that were put up there. And as I think was in his report as well, is that the shelving had fiberboard for the actual shelves, but the racks are metal. So one thing that the manager is doing now is researching, or he's priced out, because I was talking to him today, actual metal shelving, so then the air can circulate better through it. So that will help with the issue as well. And I don't think there's, from what we could see and what the manager has told me, doesn't seem to be any on the actual artifacts as such, right? So there is
There's
some.
one good thing about this is that it's brought to our attention about the importance of what we needed up there, because when you talk about the humidity and what's up there and what the levels are, because again, with regards to the money, and it just brings to, after talking about it in a couple of different committees, when funding comes in, depending on who gets the funding, the application, that person looks after so much of it, and then it goes off, where really it probably should have, in hindsight, that whole thing should have been given to you right from the very beginning, probably,
Yeah.
because a lot of this work, we have to ensure that if there's some way of protecting artifacts, then they
And
shouldn't have been.
I think ideally, and I've said this to council before, ideally the museum manager should have been hired when we bought the building and decided to turn it into that. That way, that person could have been on site and said, listen, we need this, right? Because
Well,
I'm
I
not
remember that well, that
Right, we
morning
had
when
that
that came to
discussion many
our
times.
attention, yes.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
All right,
but
okay.
we'll address it as we move along.
yeah.
Thank you. You're finished?
Yeah, so that's the important thing that the manager is dealing with right now, is to get this resolved as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. It's been really humid summer. My humidifier in my basement's been going flat out all the time. And it's finished.
Have we checked with our employers, have we checked with our employers for mold remediation, is that been looked at?
Yeah, so that,
An email when I first got.
yeah, that's one of our discussions now that we got the report back. Like I said, the report wasn't a lot of funds as such. So, but the next steps probably will turn into more funds, so then we'll check with our insurers from there.
Okay, thank you. Infrastructure, Public Works.
Tony?
I think it was me supposed to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Myself and Councillor Pollard and our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works met on August 30th at 8:15 in the morning. There's a note here about conflict of interest, and that I declared conflict within had to do with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. So the updates are here. They're in the package, which has been out since Friday, so I'll not really get into the details of any of them. There is a motion here. It's under trail development, and the motion reads, to give the town solicitor the go-ahead to send a letter to the property owner at 275 Indian Line as per their advice. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Carried.
There's a note there about the safety lights for the fire department and crosswalk, the salt sand storage shed project. The capital projects are here for the road work, and the funding arrangement being 50/50. Open space and trails information, the funding arrangement there is 60/40. The common generator project is 50/50, but it's on hold right now. Not going to get into the next two pieces, next few pieces. There's an item here about paving of a small street off Quarry Road. It's come to committee's attention that that needs work and the department is looking into it. Speed calming, the 2 new digital speed signs have been installed on Balling Line. I have to say thank you to council and the staff for the work on that. Mayor and I both live in that area, and I can tell you I still work from home, and I notice myself, I'm not sure if you'd want to speak to it, but I do notice a difference in the speed in the area since those signs have been installed. So I want to say thank you for that. And there's we had a conversation about the sewer backups, needle disposal, the fence at the History House, possible one-way street conversation was on the agenda. The action tracking items are there, and the capital works funding, which was referenced earlier in the meeting. The fall bulk garbage drop-off will be in late September, and the mold issue at the History House, as we just discussed. If there's any questions, Councillor Pollard, do you have anything you want to add to the report?
No, pretty much as written, they're running is waiting on dollar figures for the sidewalks, and have to come back with a recommendation to council in terms of moving forward. Whatever, so hopefully next meeting on those, and we'll be away voice of the next council meeting.
So ends my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions?
I got a couple of questions. I'm just assuming here, seeing that we're going out for the RFP for consulting, with regards to the salt and storage shed project, that won't be finished, completed for this year?
Yeah, at next meeting, we'll have a recommendation on the consultant, because it's already gone out for the, for pricing. We're just trying to figure out about the third price.
Okay, and the other comment that I got here is regarding the signs for the speeding on the Balling Line. Can we have the speed that you're supposed to be going? Because I remember mentioning this before. It doesn't say what the speed is. So as you're going through, it says, but you don't know if the speed is 50, because on one side of the road is 50 and on the other side it's 60.
Yeah.
So can we have the 50?
We certainly can. On the way in, there's a 60 sign, probably 200 feet back before our speed sign.
Yeah,
So
but it helps. That's normally when they're put up, they're on the actual sign, so that when you're going along, if you're going over 50, it flashes that same
Yes.
thing that's going up
Yeah,
Patrick's
so
Path.
the sign does flash now.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it
that's
don't-
not a problem.
I
It's
know,
just goes up.
I'm just thinking that should be there.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I've got to bring, and it has been brought to my attention, when we talked about putting them on the Balling Line, we also had requesting, wanting those in place on Enemy Line. And as well, then when we talked about it, if we're doing it for Balling Line, Enemy Line, and then it was Marine Drive, but I know Enemy Line, because I know, Ralph, when you were the mayor, there was meetings about doing something on Enemy Line. And as soon as that was put up, I should have told them to call you, but I didn't. But anyway, that we were going to do the same. And when we talked about doing that for the Balling Line, we said, well, we can't really do one without doing it for the other two places. And because if not, what we're doing is basically saying somebody that screams the loudest. We've gone there over the past year or so, but we've also had the same issues from Enemy Line. and as well from Marine Drive. So I don't know if that was followed up on as part of the initial request that went in, Brian, or what the committee, or why it just ended up on Bowling Line.
I do remember discussion that you're referring to. I think when the mayor wrote the letter to the department originally, we were dealing mainly with the bowling line, I think. And we still haven't received a response on the full letter. We just got approval to put 2 speed signs on bowling line.
Okay, I'll just tell them all now to call the MHA and tell the mayor.
There you go.
I know, but I mean, it
The
was,
letter that I wrote to the department was based on a motion that council did.
yeah, but
Yeah.
in discussion, it all went because we even said, how can we do it for one place
Right.
and not do it for the other 2 roads where people
No, it's fair.
were questioning that as well, right? So
It's fair.
I
We
said
can-
that I would bring it up and, see what we can do to make that happen.
So we can write another letter. What's the cost of those signs, Brian?
The cost, the digital sign itself is $2,400, and then the post and labor to put it up there, obviously.
I think that the provincial government should be paying for them and not with us, because once you start it, that's a whole other story. But once you do it for one, the precedent is being set.
Yeah. We do have one on Marine Drive coming back this way, right? That we put there years ago.
Yeah,
We,
yeah, so we need one
But
there
not-
for
but not
Email.
in the middle.
You need to put one in there, and you know the area that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do know the area.
All right, so can we table that now, and then you guys can take it back to the committee and look at it, talk about it, please?
yeah, I think if we could, just to sum up the report, Deputy Mayor makes a really good point about a townwide pedestrian safety strategy discussion. And I do know on Marine Drive, there is some infrastructure there because it's school zone. That's been done over the last couple of years, so we can review that. And I do recall the petitions last term of council around Meal Line, but at that time, my recollection of that was,
bumps.
exactly, there was a conversation about speed bumps, and by the time we got permission from the provincial government to put speed bumps in,
We never did.
we weren't able to do it.
No, we never did get permission to put speed bumps in, ever.
Okay, I understood that we did. So for this, what we need to do is review the provincial roads, ask for permission, because we had to have permission to put in those signs, seek that permission, and then move forward. The other thing about that, we did have one resident in there who I think wrote around 100 emails in that communication that created that result of those speed signs going in. And I think it's important, and to Deputy Mayor's point, residents really do need to reach out and speak with us and make sure that, if something that they're concerned about drops off, that they come back to us again and have that conversation so we can bring it back to the table like Deputy Mayor did tonight. So very, very good points, and I think that townwide strategy of how do we do that makes sense. I would ask if we could follow up again to see if we can get a response to that letter. My understanding, that letter was specific to the
Speed limit.
the speed limit was one, and the other part of that was the
Not shoulders.
my recollection was.
We already got a response back from the department and from the MHA saying that the shoulders met the requirements of the road that when it was done.
Okay, so that was those were the 2 items in the letter that I recall.
It wasn't a written, it was,
Yeah,
we were
I don't
told by
recall.
the department.
Yeah. Okay, so
But
we
yeah,
could follow up on that
that's fair.
letter.
But I will just mention one thing. Yes, that resident on Bowling Line sent 150 emails, but 150 emails alone does not make us go and put something in. There was a lot of extra work that was done preliminary with speed signs in there, recording traffic and how fast the cars were going and all that kind of stuff to justify those signs going in there. It wasn't just somebody asked for them and they went there. So
Absolutely, Mayor, and I agree with you on that, but I think that comes back to the idea of the committee talking about a strategy, pedestrian
in our
safety.
strategic plan,
Yeah.
pedestrian safety strategy.
So
right
we
there.
can revisit that as part of that discussion.
We had the sign on Meal Line the past couple of years collecting
Right,
the information and that as well.
yeah.
And so there should be information available on that as well.
Councillor
Can I, quick question off that topic, and Brian, you could probably help me on this. What's our schedule looking for the paving going on from in the meal line up to the school? Because here we're back now with the school.
I got to follow up with MHA about that tomorrow.
Yeah,
Because that's not our
tomorrow.
project, right?
I got that.
And I got an email from
Yes.
a I got
No,
an
I'm
email
just curious
from a
for the
resident
town,
tonight.
because obviously we're going back to school now, and here we go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You
I
don't
did
know-
have a chat with the department
Yeah.
and with the contractor. The contractor had an issue with some certification in a certain area, and that's the reason it hasn't been completed. But they're working on that, so they're hoping to have it done. So when I asked them if it was gonna be done before school, which was like 2.5 weeks ago, they said maybe. And when I spoke to the department said not likely, so. So I'm expecting, probably after school's back for a week or so, you'll see paving crews, and, because what they're waiting on is the concrete curb and gutter at the top there, that needs to be done first,
Yeah.
so.
So Brian, I had it wrote down the same thing, and one of the things that I was going to ask, to do whatever you need to do. With the rain that I guess we had the weekend, they just put in the new guardrail there from the tap house up. So that's washed out there now. So is the curb and gutter going down right down to the tap house? Because that's in pretty bad shape.
I'm 99% sure, no. From what I can see, there looks like they're gonna put a asphalt swell down along by the guardrail.
Yeah.
Just curb and gutter are gonna come as far as Thorns Lane, so from up to Doyle's Martins, up there, come down over the hill, down as far as Thorns Lane, and then from there down, it'll be a asphalt swell.
Okay, I'll follow up with MHA more on that.
Yeah, because it's pretty bad, right?
Otherwise, you would have seen these steel pegs in there with ropes on them already set up, ready to go.
Well, even for them to come down and fill in them big potholes that are there, because I know I went down into it last night coming home, and now you got the buses and the cars where they've got the gravel
Yeah.
there, and, I mean, that should have been
I would
filled in.
have, again, I wasn't over that way today,
Yeah,
but, because I
it's
was
bad.
busy in the office. But I would have figured that the contractor would have been back today and filled those in, knowing that school's starting.
Yeah.
But, I guess that wasn't the case.
All right, I'll follow.
I
up.
will send an email to them right now, though, because they're pretty good at that stuff.
Copy me out, maybe, so I can send it to MHA Wallace.
Certainly. Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. Recreation, Community Services. Councillor Goss.
I was not in attendance to that meeting, Mr. Mayor. I had to do some mandatory training, so I wasn't able to accommodate that meeting.
Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so myself and Councillor Manning, I just lost it off my screen, just 1 second. Oh, wow. It's gone altogether. No. No, I should be fine. Now I'm back in on this part. One time I would have been saying yes, like right away, but now. Okay, so, program and events, Killy Coast Games, were very successful. The only challenge, I guess, was the weather. You know, we had some people were upset over the scheduling of some of the games. That's it. That's all we could do about it. And thanks to all the staff and the volunteers who worked tirelessly long hours to ensure the event was successful. Fall registration, the new community guide is out. I understand that registration for most of the programs and that take place tomorrow, opens up. The budget breakdown, the committee discussed the need to evaluate the true cost of all the programs and events, so in preparation for the 2024 budget. And the splash pad closed. We all know about the incident, Upper Three Corner Pond Soccer Field. And I would just add on that, and when we talked about it, I really think that that pole should be replaced, and I know, Brian, that goes back to you, just in case, when we know the pole for Upper Three Corner Pond, the soccer field, I understand that the pole had cracked off, so we need to put them nets up the height that they need to be. Kind of
I think,
puzzled?
yeah, it caught me off guard, I was typing the email through the contractor.
Yeah, no, the incident at the
Yeah,
Upper
so
Creek.
the pole,
Yeah.
the pole cracked off probably 7 or 8 years ago is what
Yeah.
happened was. And at the time, there is no set standard for the height of a net like that on the side of a
Okay.
street, right? I've checked far and far and
Okay.
wide on it. So my understanding, again, I wasn't in the department when it happened, but I did find the pole that cracked off. I was the first person who came on site because I was going bowling that evening, actually.
Yeah.
So I do remember when it happened. But, so what they done was, the net at the time was, I think it was like 28 to 30 feet high. And because of the wind and everything there, when he put the net back, that net was totally destroyed at the time. So when he put the net back, they put back a net that was 20 feet itself, but it's still up higher because it's like 6 or 7 feet off the ground, right? So the poles are still high enough to,
Okay,
Right.
because
And
that's
I-
not my,
yeah, I do have a price to raise that as well, which I'm
Yeah.
looking for in budget this year.
yeah,
And I've done a bunch of research, and like I said, I've asked many people around about standards and requirements, and there is no standard, there is no requirement, even having net there at the end of the day, right? If you drive
Okay.
down, I drove down by Bowring Park just over the weekend, and there's a little ball field on the corner of the street there, and the net that's there is, I'd say if the net is 15 feet high, and that's going by a major road, right?
well, it's
So-
unfortunate because
Yeah.
somehow in the discussion about this, the comment was being made that, you know, that they used to be higher and because.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate
It
if
is,
that's the case, considering that there was a close call
Yeah.
with that incident. So if that's not the case, so I guess that should be recorded somewhere with that,
Yeah.
but,
The net was higher at one point in time, but like I said,
Yes.
it's taken out for,
yeah, I understood that the
Yeah.
net was still there and could go up higher, that it was just a pole that was cracked off.
no.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, good, then brought that up.
Yep.
Fall rentals, staff are finalizing the facility rentals schedule for the fall at the Common and Upper Three Corner Pond. The director will submit an application for New Horizons. I think that's closing in, if it's not already closed, in the next couple of days. And we had some discussion around that refund policy, that there was some issues over the duration of the summer program. And a time in Torbay, the director's working with committee reps to get the MOU finalized and completed. And that's the end of the report.
Any questions? I have a question, and it's, you guys can bring it back to your committee. You don't have to answer it now. But I did receive an email from the Air Cadets, whoever it was, that are looking to come to Torbay. They're looking for some answers on our commitment. So they're asking me for a meeting, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to accommodate them. I'm gonna see if I can.
We gotta go back and basically see what the availability of time and everything, like, Jen had said that there's a lot of requests that we're getting from the community groups that we can still fill,
'Cause
so.
I don't know. I'm looking at this program is something, and in particular, when you talk about troubled youth and things that are going on with young people, this is a program that is free to young people and promotes everything about being a good human being and growing up with good values and all that kind of stuff.
So it's
Whatever we can
probably
do.
going to end up meaning that they'll have to juggle what they've got, because she could give us a copy of the calendar, and it's basically,
I'm just hoping that
space.
somehow we were gonna be able to accommodate that.
Yeah.
So I know they've been trying for a few years.
we did
Yeah,
talk about it, but we
we're-
never
we're
made a
just-
decision on
We're just chin
it.
so full now, trying to accommodate, you know,
Yeah.
the residents and so forth. And I think we did, Norm, I think, did we ask a question potentially just seeing what the demographic was for that group? Did we, was that?
We did. We went back to them and asked questions. How many kids are Torbay? Was it a regional group? Is the group coming out of St. John's and just looking for a place in Torbay? And we didn't receive any responses
Yeah.
back.
Well, that's the first thing that we need, because they were the questions that we talked about before, because right now, there's a number of the different users that are there, and they want more time, if anything else, right? So, until they answer that, so if they're come back to you, we need to get the answer to those questions.
All right, fair enough. I do know that that particular core is the one that the kids from Torbay go to in town, because my son was in it.
Yeah, Mayor, can I speak to that?
Sure.
I agree with your comments, and I think it's really important, especially with all of the recent conversations that have been happening lately about children at risk, people at risk, you know, putting infrastructure in place so that kids can have support. And I have a friend actually who grew up in a hard home and said cadets was what had saved this person. So, you know, it's something I think that's very important, and it's, you know, even close to my own personal circle. I just want to ask the question, when it comes to space for that, I know the common was the discussion space, but did we look at Upper Three Corner Pond
Not
Park
big
and?
enough, not big enough.
No.
Not big enough?
They wanted to have the gym, and I do know that the common gym now is
And the
between the
other-
different groups that are there.
The other piece of the question that I have is, if we aren't able to do it with the common gym, is there or has there been a conversation with the schools to see if they have any space in their gym to work? Because I know when I was involved with the soccer club years ago, we would, you know, have agreements with the school to try to find space and work with them as well. So if we haven't engaged in that discussion, we have 3 gymnasiums with 3 schools here. Maybe that's a possibility to have as a part of a discussion
So
to
now they were
explore.
looking for storage was one of the big parts with that as
Right.
well, right?
Yeah.
With the having them over there, and then so was the Lions, and so was another group, so where do you?
I'll go back to them. I mean, we got limited space, and I'll just, I'll find out more information.
Well,
from
we
them.
need to get those answers to those questions that were sent off to begin with.
All right.
The second point I just wanted to make in the notes here with the Killick Coast Games, it says here, the director would like to thank all staff and volunteers who worked tirelessly and long hours to ensure this event was successful. I'd just like to recognize the director for her work in this as well. She was in there, you know, with her sleeves rolled up, ready and willing to deal with whatever needed to be dealt with, and did an exceptional job throughout the Killick Coast Games. So I just want to extend a thank you to Jen as well for her work in that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right. Liaison committees, Atlantic Mayor's Congress. Our next meeting is in Happy Valley Goose Bay, 23rd September. I think something like that, isn't it? Yeah. So I'll be going there. Intergovernmental affairs, I guess the 2 topics that we got on our radar now, or 3, is the paving on Torbay Road. I'll follow up on that tomorrow. Our sidewalk project committee is following up on that, and I think that's pretty much it. And the enemy line thing, I'll ask about that too.
The bowling
Bowling line. No, enemy line.
and the bowling line there as well, because you never got focused.
Right, yes, right, sorry. Agreed. Jack Byrne.
We'll be meeting, I guess we'll have a fall meeting. We haven't finalized a date yet, have we, Tony?
No, nothing yet.
Okay. Northeast Outland Joint Council.
We got a meeting next Wednesday.
Alrighty.
It'll be the first in-person meeting since COVID.
RNC, nothing to report other than the fact, and I, like many people, have noticed some increased patrols in town lately, which is very good and appreciated. Hope they keep it up, and if any residents are calling, complaining about speeding on the road, keep doing it, please, because that's what generates the interest in them coming down here. The squeaky wheel gets the grease with them. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay, I don't have anything there right now. I'll catch the next meeting, but I would like to, I was going to save to the end though. We have Fire Chief Rodney Goody and Lieutenant Shalane Wade got married on Friday, so
Congratulations.
big congratulations to them.
Absolutely.
On that report, could I just jump in for a second and acknowledge the work of the fire department with the mental health run? They did an amazing job, really, truly amazing job. Captain John Callahan said he had someone reach out, and we all know John's an avid runner, and someone reached out to him and said there is no mental health run. And we know that our fire department respond to things that most of us don't want to respond to or run away from for safety reasons. The fire department came out, They were marshals there, they organized it, they planned it. You know, John and the team had gotten almost, I think, every business in the town to give some swag. They had a great draw. There were a lot of different businesses in the town from an economic development perspective who participated, got great exposure. It was a class act, very well-run event. They did an amazing job. So to the fire department and to John and the team that put that together, I just want to put a shout out for that. I know that Recreation supported as well, so thank you to the Recreation team for that. But it really was spectacular, and I just think that it's important to recognize what the fire department did with that and John did. And congratulations as well to the Gaudets. But I think it's really important to recognize that mental health front too. So
Like
thank you.
it's just an example of how they do go above and beyond for community and everything that's out there. So,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
All said. Urban Municipalities Committee, we met a couple of weeks ago in Bonavista, and I must say it was very eye-opening and interesting to see what Bonavista is doing. The amount of infrastructure that they built over the last 10 or 12 years on a $4 million budget is around 40 some odd million dollars that they've done. They find ways to get money that the town only has to put in a little bit, and they have these arm's length committees of council that are doing things. Streetscapes Foundation is one that they have that owns buildings, that rents them, that renovates, that buys properties. It's crazy what they're doing out there, but it's so, I mean, they've basically saved that community. They rely so much on tourism, it's not funny. But they had a $250,000 picket fence budget this year. Just putting up picket fences in the downtown area so that everything looks nice. So it's, whatever they're doing out there is awesome, and it's all related to tourism, and it's after, what they're doing is they're saving that community. It's bustling out there, and I think that we need to look at, sometimes we need to look at what smaller towns are doing. They're not small town, but they're around 3,000 people. But what they're doing out there is truly amazing, and the council has made some policy decisions and decisions that they do that when they first started doing them were not easy to make and not popular, but they did them anyway, and they moved forward, and it's pretty good what they're doing out there. I can tell you, if we could generate a portion of that money that they're getting, and I think a lot of it they get from ACOA and different other funding entities, but the formula that they have is working, and I think it's something that we need to look at on how we do our stuff and figure out ways to, not that we're not doing things good, but if I always look for ways to do things better.
But that should come then for the best practices, if you're like dealing with them and what they're doing, for us to do the same,
Right.
the same thing.
They're not always going to be openly to share exactly what they're doing, because now they're going to be having competition.
Absolutely. Do you have any minutes and that of those
I will
meetings and that?
certainly-
Because I have never,
Yeah, I put them in the package.
I haven't, I
After
can't say that I've
we have a
never seen
meeting and
them.
the minutes get approved, then I circulate them. So the ones that got approved at Bonavista, once I get them, I'll circulate them.
Yeah, put them in, because I haven't seen.
All right, I'll do.
Mayor, if I could,
Yeah.
and then, Mark, if I could ask this maybe to be added to the next Economic Development Tourism Committee agenda. But there's a really good point you made about Bonavista, and I know in the town of Bjorn, there's private investors there as well who've been involved in the tourism aspect, and they have boat tours now out to Great Bjorn Island. You can go out, you can hike it, you can get a tour out to take you around the harbor and show you. I did that last summer, it was an amazing experience. They have some of these spaces where you can, they build these huts, the private industry do, and you can rent them, and the town has, again, like you said, they've developed some policies to allow some of this stuff, and spectacular views, camping abilities, a lot of good economic development, tourism stuff that's been happening with private investment, but policy development and modeling that has been, supported by the municipality. So I think it's a really good idea when we do get an economic development tourism officer to have that conversation about what is working well in Bonavista, what is working well in Bay Roberts. I mean, we've tagged on to the piece of the tulip conversation. Can we study what's happening in Bjorn, the town of Bjorn, with their, private partners, and see if there's any lessons learned? Because there's always an ability for us to showcase the community in a way where people can work with us to develop. And if we're talking about town center, perfect example of, getting that private industry in to do some of that stuff. So I think it would be a really good idea as a first part of introduction into the role, or bring that person in, to have that on the agenda, have a conversation, and see what we can do with it from a committee perspective. So if I can leave that with you, Mark, would that be okay to add to the agenda? Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Notice of motion, we have none, new business, Councilor Tepper.
Pass.
Oh, yeah, you passed, hang on, I gotta find my sheet. Can't let anybody cheat. And Councilor Manning, Councilor Manning.
Okay, well, I had said congratulations to Fire Chief and Rodney Goody and Lieutenant Charlene Wade. And once again, just to say, as everyone else has, thank you to the volunteers and staff for the Killycoast Games. Job well done, especially with the weather. God bless you. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Appleby.
Councillor Manning, I think I was like you, I was in there for the fine weather. And my kids' games, and that was about it. Very busy week for me. I wanted to just share with council that I've been invited to participate in a hour-long conversation tomorrow night with Chris Brown with the cross-border interviews. And I've already done one interview with him talking about why I got involved in politics and what a great experience it's been. This one is going to be a pan-country conversation with a councillor from Vancouver, Rebecca Bly. She's going to be joining us. Diana Hewson from Ontario, who brought in some cool legislation about respectful workplace in her area. And Katie Berghofer, who is the vice chair of the Standing Committee to Increase Women's Participation at FCM. So the four of us are going to have a conversation about breaking the glass ceiling, women in politics. And the idea is to have a pan-Canadian conversation about, how cool it is to be in the sector, what it's like, and share that information with other people. So that's the conversation we're having tomorrow. And I just thought it'd be nice to share with council, let you guys know that's coming up, and I'll let you know when it is coming out, but we're having the conversation tomorrow night. I wanted to also share in the thank yous around people who've been a part of sports. We did talk about Killycoast, and it takes a lot of people to make that happen. But we've also had, some community groups who have been running sports, and they're just tying up now. And I wanted to say thank you to those people as well. There's a lot of people, and I used to do it. I did it for 6 years. You put a lot of hours and effort into making sure that we have great programmings in our town, and that allows the kids to play here on our field. So thank you for that. And if I could indulge, I didn't speak up, Mayor, when you talked about the communication for the vice president seat, but I advised council when that came out that I will be re-seeking the nomination for the vice president seat as well. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Good
That's
luck.
it for me. Thank you.
All right, Deputy Mayor.
I just wanted to thank the staff, volunteers, and I know the Lions Club was involved as well in the Killycoast Games in the canteen, so big shout out to that group. And this weekend, I just wanted to mention that the Pet Dog tournament is taking place, so if you're not playing, you can welcome to come in and cheer on the few people that are playing. You're playing?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
You're on my
That's
team.
it.
Where?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I should have checked it was on team first.
All right, thank you. I just want to echo what everyone has said about the Killycoast Games. Thank you to everybody who was involved. I already mentioned that earlier. I'm not going to waste no more on it. I think everybody knows how I feel about that. I just want to say good luck to all the students that are going to be going back to school this week, and to residents and drivers and whoever else is out on the road. Please be careful when you're driving. Watch out for the kids, and for the parents, tell their kids to watch out for the drivers on the road, because not always is everybody being attentive. And when two people are not being attentive, that's when something bad can happen, and we don't want to see that happening. And you know, to what others mentioned earlier, Torbay Road is still tore up a little bit there on the north side. Well, tore up a lot actually. And particularly be careful in that area with the sometimes the traffic tie-ups over around there, and the road is tore up. And just please, please, please keep your eyes open, pay attention, and watch out for children on the road, because we don't want any kind of tragedies happening. And sorry. And thank you to staff and council for your participation in the meeting and your work that you do in between meetings that nobody generally gets to see. They only see the results of it. Hopefully the results are good. All right. Q&A, I don't have any Q&As come in, except for one question I had from a resident in regards to Torbay Road, and I already basically answered that. I'll follow up with the MHA because that is a provincial government project. But it's our road, and we will follow up on it. Our next public council meeting is scheduled to take place Monday, September 18, 2023, right here, as we are back to our regular 2-week rotation of meetings. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you very much.